Ethan had never believed in anything extraordinary. He had always been an average guy, working his job at a tech store, hanging out with friends on weekends, and going through the motions of life. He didn't expect things to change anytime soon, and he liked it that way. Earth was familiar. It was his home, and he didn't mind the quiet routine. That was until the night he met Zira. It started like any other evening. Ethan was walking home after a long day of work, his mind on the usual worries, bills, deadlines, the chaos of daily life. The city was alive with activity, as it always was. People hustling on their phones, cars zooming past, and the buzz of neon lights from the billboards. It was a typical evening in the heart of the city. But something felt different tonight. As he turned a corner, something caught his eye. At first, it was just a shadow in the distance, but as he drew closer, the figure became clearer. It was a woman, standing alone on the sidewalk, looking directly at him. Her presence was unlike anything he had ever felt before. Something about her felt powerful. She stood taller than most, with silver blue skin that shimmered faintly in the city lights. Her eyes were an eerie shade of violet, glowing with an intensity that almost made Ethan's heart skip a beat. Ethan froze in place, unsure of what to make of the situation. He didn't know her, and yet there was something oddly familiar about the way she looked at him, like she had been expecting him. "Are you all right?" Ethan finally asked, feeling an unusual pull in his chest as he stepped closer. It wasn't like him to approach strangers, especially not ones that looked as out of place as she did, but he couldn't help it. The woman didn't respond right away. She just stood there silently studying him. Her gaze was intense, as though she could see through him, reading his every thought. Then, without any warning, she spoke. "Come with me, human," she said, her voice soft but firm, carrying a sense of urgency. It wasn't a request, it was an order. Ethan blinked in confusion. Was she talking to him? He had never heard anyone speak like that before, and the chill in her voice made him hesitate. He looked around, but no one seemed to notice the strange woman standing in the middle of the sidewalk. The bustling city continued on as if nothing was out of the ordinary. He turned his attention back to her, still unsure whether he was dreaming. "Are you lost?" Ethan asked, hoping his voice didn't betray his growing unease. "No," she replied, her violet eyes narrowing slightly. "I need you. You are the one I've been searching for." Ethan's confusion deepened. "I don't know what you mean," he said slowly, trying to make sense of what was happening. Who was this woman, and why did she want him? She stepped closer, and the air seemed to shimmer around her. For a moment, Ethan could swear the temperature dropped, as though her very presence made the world feel different. "I am Zira," she said, her voice smooth and melodic. "I come from far beyond your world, and I need you to come with me. There is no time to explain. You must come now." Ethan didn't know why, but something inside him, something deep down, urged him to trust her. It was as if every fiber of his being screamed that this moment was meant to happen. The uncertainty he felt earlier was now replaced with a strange sense of inevitability. He opened his mouth to speak, but before he could find the words, she held up a hand and the world around him seemed to shift. His feet felt lighter, and the hum of the city faded into the background, replaced by the sound of distant winds and the quiet hum of machinery. He glanced around, but everything seemed to blur, like he was no longer standing in his familiar city. "Where are we?" Ethan whispered, his heart racing as panic began to settle in. Was he imagining all this? Zira didn't answer immediately. She just stepped forward and, in one fluid motion, placed a hand on his shoulder. The moment her fingers made contact, a rush of warmth spread through his body, calming him in an instant. It wasn't like anything he had ever felt before. He closed his eyes for a second, taking in the strange sensation. "I know this is sudden," Zira said, her voice now softer, "but your world is in danger and you are the key to saving it." Ethan's heart skipped a beat. He looked at her in disbelief. "Me? What do you mean? I'm just a guy from Earth. I'm not special." "You are." she replied, her gaze unwavering. You have a role to play, one that you cannot ignore. You are a part of something much larger than you can understand right now. Ethan shook his head, trying to process everything she had said. This is insane. I don't even know you. Zira's lips curled into a faint smile. You will, she said. In time, you will understand. Suddenly, before he could ask anything else, a light above them flickered, and a large, sleek craft appeared out of nowhere, hovering just above the street. The lights of the city seemed to vanish as the ship's glow illuminated the surrounding area. Ethan blinked, stunned. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. Come with me, Zira repeated, her voice carrying a finality that left no room for argument. The fate of your world depends on it. Ethan hesitated for a moment. He wanted to say no. He wanted to run, to make sense of everything and retreat to the safety of his normal life. But deep down, he knew he couldn't. There was something about her, something about this moment that felt undeniable. He took a deep breath and nodded. All right, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. I'll go. Without another word, Zira turned and led him toward the ship. As he followed her, a sense of excitement and dread mixed together in his chest. His heart pounded in his ears as he stepped inside the vessel, the doors closing behind him with a soft hiss. As the ship lifted off, leaving Earth behind, Ethan couldn't help but feel that this was just the beginning of something far greater than anything he could have imagined. And as the stars stretched out before him, he realized that whatever awaited him, it would change everything. Ethan's heart was still racing as the sleek spacecraft lifted off from Earth. The city lights below grew smaller and smaller until they vanished entirely, replaced by the endless blackness of space. The hum of the engines reverberated through the floor beneath him, and the soft glow from the control panels illuminated the interior. He couldn't believe what was happening. He had been living a simple, predictable life one moment, and now he was traveling through the stars in an alien ship. Zira stood near the control panel, her eyes focused on the stars ahead. She didn't look back at him, but Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that she was waiting for something, perhaps a sign that he was ready for the journey ahead. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. What was there to say? How could he possibly ask the right questions when everything about this situation felt unreal? Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, Zira turned to face him. Her violet eyes shimmered with the same intensity they had when they first met, but now there was something more, a sense of purpose. You must be wondering why you're here, she said softly, her voice calm and measured. Ethan nodded, his throat dry. Yeah, I mean, this is all kind of hard to believe. Zira smiled faintly. I understand, but there is no time for doubt, human. You are part of something greater than yourself, whether you realize it or not. Ethan wasn't sure what to make of her words, but he knew she wasn't joking. The urgency in her tone made it clear that whatever was happening, it was important. He swallowed hard, trying to push away his fear. If he was truly part of something bigger, then he had to accept it. He didn't have a choice now. As the ship soared further into space, the view outside shifted. Ethan had never seen anything like it before. Stars stretched out before him, distant and bright, scattered like diamonds against the velvet black sky. Planets, moons, and distant galaxies hovered in the far distance. There was so much to take in that it almost made his head spin. Where are we going? Ethan asked, trying to ground himself in reality. Zira looked at him, her expression unreadable. I'm taking you to a place far from Earth, a place where your true journey begins. Ethan stared at her, confused. What do you mean, my true journey? The artifact, Zira explained. It is the key to saving my world. I've been searching for it for years, and now with your help, we will find it. Ethan raised an eyebrow. Artifact? What kind of artifact? Zira's gaze softened and she stepped closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. It's an ancient relic hidden away on a forgotten planet. It has the power to either save or destroy, depending on who controls it. Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. You're talking about something that powerful? And you want me to help you find it? Yes, Zira replied without hesitation. You have something within you, human, something that the artifact will recognize. It needs you. Ethan was silent for a moment, absorbing her words. He still didn't understand fully what she meant, but there was something in her eyes that made him believe her. Whatever this artifact was, whatever it could do, Zira clearly believed that he was the key to finding it. He leaned back in his seat, looking out at the stars again. The sight was mesmerizing, but the overwhelming sense of being far from home still hung over him. Was he truly ready for this? He had no idea, but one thing was certain. There was no turning back now. Hours passed as the ship cruised through the void of space. Ethan did his best to get some rest, but sleep didn't come easily. His mind raced with questions. Who was Zira, really? Why had she chosen him for this mission? And what did she mean by him having something the artifact would recognize? He wanted to ask her all these questions, but each time he tried, the words got caught in his throat. Eventually, Zira broke the silence again. We will reach the planet soon, she said, her voice calm and steady. When we land, you will see things that will challenge everything you know about your world. Ethan glanced at her, puzzled. What do you mean? Everything you've been told about the universe is wrong, Zira replied. Your planet is young, and it doesn't understand the true power that exists beyond its atmosphere. The artifact is part of that power. Ethan swallowed, hard, trying to process what she was saying. It was hard to imagine that Earth, his home, was so insignificant compared to the vastness of the universe, but Zira's words held a weight that made him question everything he had ever known. The ship began to slow down, and Zira moved to the control panel, her fingers dancing over the glowing buttons. Ethan's heart skipped a beat as he watched her. She was so calm, so confident, like she had done this 1,000 times before. Her eyes flicked to him, and for a moment, their gazes locked. There was an unspoken understanding between them, one that told Ethan that they were in this together, no matter how strange or dangerous the path ahead might be. We are close, Zira said quietly. Ethan nodded, trying to steady his nerves. As the ship descended toward the planet's surface, he couldn't help but feel a strange sense of excitement, mixed with fear. What was waiting for them down there? And how would he fit into all of this? The planet below was unlike anything he had seen before. Its surface was covered in dense forests and towering mountains, and its oceans stretched out in vast blue expanses. The colors were more vivid than anything Ethan had ever imagined. As the ship touched down on the surface, he couldn't help but feel the weight of the moment. This was it. They had arrived at the start of something life-changing. Stay close to me, Zira instructed as she stood, moving toward the exit. This place is full of dangers, both known and unknown. Ethan nodded and followed her as they stepped out of the ship and onto the planet's surface. The air was thick with the scent of alien vegetation, and the sky above was a deep, unfamiliar shade of purple. The world around him felt alive in a way he had never experienced before. There was something ancient about this place, something powerful. Where are we going? Ethan asked, as they began walking through the dense forest. Zira didn't answer right away. She only glanced at him, her eyes serious. The artifact is hidden deep within this forest. We must reach it before anyone else does. Ethan felt the weight of her words. This wasn't just a simple mission anymore. This was about something much bigger. And whether he was ready for it or not, he knew that his life was about to change forever. The forest was silent, except for the occasional rustling of leaves in the breeze. Ethan and Zira walked side by side, the air thick with the scent of alien plants, and the distant sound of creatures that Ethan couldn't even begin to identify. The landscape was breathtaking, but it also felt dangerous. The trees here were unlike anything on Earth, towering so high that their tops seemed to disappear into the purple sky. Vines and glowing flowers lined the path as they made their way, deeper into the dense forest. Ethan's mind raced as he followed Zira. She moved with purpose, her every step calculated and confident. He had never seen anyone so calm in a place like this, especially considering how alien everything felt. As they walked, Ethan's thoughts kept returning to the artifact, this powerful relic that could either save or destroy a world. Zira had said it was the key to saving her planet, but he still didn't fully understand what it was or why she needed his help to find it. Zira, Ethan began, his voice low, I still don't get it. What exactly is this artifact? How can it save your planet? Zira glanced at him, her expression unreadable, but her eyes were filled with determination. It is an ancient power, one that has been hidden for millennia, she explained. It was created by the first civilization of my people, the Threxians. The artifact is not just an object, it's a living entity. Its power can heal or destroy depending on how it is used. Ethan frowned, trying to wrap his mind around what she was saying. A living entity? So it's alive? Yes, Zira confirmed, her voice steady. The artifact is a sentient being, capable of manipulating energy and matter. It was designed to protect my world in times of crisis, but the power it holds is dangerous. In the wrong hands, it could cause unimaginable destruction. Ethan couldn't help but shiver at the thought. He had no idea that such power existed in the universe, let alone that it could be connected to an alien race. He had always thought of Earth as the center of the universe, but now, with Zira's words weighing on him, he realized just how small and fragile his world was compared to everything beyond it. They continued walking in silence for a while, and Ethan found himself lost in the beauty of the alien forest. The trees were unlike any he had seen before. Their bark shimmered in the light and the leaves glowed faintly, casting an eerie soft light on the ground below. The air felt fresh, but there was an underlying tension that made every step feel more significant than the last. After what felt like hours, they reached a clearing. In the center of it stood an enormous stone structure, covered in intricate carvings that pulsed with faint energy. The structure looked ancient, its stones weathered by time, yet there was something about it that seemed timeless. Something powerful. This is it, Zira said, her voice barely above a whisper. The artifact is inside. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. The structure before them was unlike anything he had ever seen. It was not like a traditional building. It was more like a temple, carved directly into the side of the mountain. The carvings on the walls were filled with symbols and images that Ethan couldn't understand, but they seemed to tell a story of some ancient civilization. There was a sense of history here, a sense of reverence, and yet something about it made Ethan uneasy. Is it safe? He asked, looking at Zira. Zira's gaze softened, but there was still an air of caution in her eyes. The artifact is guarded by ancient protections, she replied. It will test us before we can reach it. Ethan nodded, though he wasn't sure what to expect. He had come this far, and he knew there was no turning back now. Whatever this artifact was, it seemed to hold the key to everything. Together, they approached the entrance to the stone structure. As they drew closer, the carvings on the wall seemed to come alive, their lines glowing faintly with energy. Ethan's heart began to race as he followed Zira inside. The air inside was cooler, and the walls felt alive with energy. Strange symbols were etched into every surface, and the ground beneath them seemed to hum with power. Zira led the way through the corridors, her steps quick and sure. The deeper they went, the more Ethan felt the weight of the place pressing down on him. It was like the very walls were watching them, waiting for them to prove they were worthy of the artifact. Finally, they reached the inner chamber. It was vast, with high ceilings that stretched up into darkness. In the center of the room stood a pedestal, and on that pedestal rested the artifact, a large glowing sphere that seemed to pulse with an energy all its own. The sphere was a deep shade of blue, and it radiated a soft light that illuminated the entire chamber. Ethan felt a chill run down his spine as he stepped closer. The artifact seemed to call to him, its energy pulling him forward. He could feel its power even from a distance, and it was unlike anything he had ever experienced. It was as though the very air around it was charged with energy, and Ethan could feel it vibrating in his bones. "This is it," Zira whispered, her voice filled with awe. "The artifact." Ethan's breath caught in his throat as he looked at the sphere. It was beautiful in its own way, but also terrifying. He had no idea how something so small could hold so much power. He turned to Zira, his mind racing with questions. "Do you know how to use it?" he asked. "How do we activate it?" Zira's face darkened. "That is the problem," she said softly. "The artifact is ancient and its powers are not easily understood. Only those who are truly worthy can control it, and even then, its power is unpredictable." Ethan felt his stomach tighten. "So you don't know if we can even use it?" Zira shook her head. "I can't say for sure, but we have no choice. My planet is dying, and the artifact is the only way to save it." Ethan swallowed hard, feeling the weight of her words. He had come this far, and now it felt like the fate of an entire planet rested on their shoulders. He wasn't sure if he was ready for this, but he knew one thing for certain. He couldn't turn back now. As they approached the pedestal, the energy in the room seemed to intensify. The artifact pulsed with light, and the air around them began to crackle with power. Zira raised her hand slowly as if sensing the artifact's energy. "This is it," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "The moment of truth." Ethan's heart raced as he watched her. He didn't know what was about to happen, but he felt it in his gut. This was the moment that would determine everything. As Zira reached for the artifact, the entire chamber seemed to shudder. The energy in the room spiked, and Ethan felt a wave of power wash over him. He stepped back, his heart pounding in his chest. Something was happening, something big. And then, just as suddenly as it began, the chamber fell silent. The light from the artifact flickered, and the energy that had filled the room began to dissipate. Zira's hand hovered just above the artifact. She turned to Ethan, her eyes wide with realization. It's reacting to you," she said, her voice filled with awe. Ethan looked at her, confused. "What do you mean?" Zira's gaze softened. "The artifact has chosen you." The chamber was quiet now, the pulse of the artifact's light dimming as if it had just shared some unspoken secret with the air around it. Ethan could hardly breathe, his mind spinning. He looked at Zira, who was still staring at the artifact, in disbelief. She hadn't touched it yet, but her expression had changed. Her earlier certainty was replaced with something like worry or fear. "What's happening?" Ethan asked, his voice hoarse. "What do you mean it's reacting to me?" Zira took a deep breath, her eyes never leaving the artifact. Slowly, she stepped back. "It's never done this before. The artifact only reveals its true power to those it deems worthy. And it's chosen you." Ethan's heart skipped a beat. "Me?" He couldn't understand. He was just a regular guy from Earth. He didn't feel powerful. He didn't feel worthy. "But I don't know anything about this. I don't even know how to use it." Zira hesitated, her fingers still, hovering just above the artifact. "I didn't expect this either," she murmured, "but there's no time to waste. The artifact will guide you." Ethan was about to ask more when suddenly, a loud crash echoed from somewhere deep within the stone structure. Zira immediately sprang into action, her hand going to a device on her belt. Before Ethan could even react, she pulled out a sleek, glowing blade. "They've found us," she said grimly, her eyes flashing with concern. "The rogue faction is here." The ground trembled as loud footsteps thundered through the corridors, growing closer. Ethan's heart raced, and the air felt heavy with tension. He had no idea who these people were or what they wanted, but one thing was clear. This was far from over. "Stay close," Zira said urgently, grabbing Ethan's arm. "We can't let them take the artifact. It's our only chance." Before Ethan could fully comprehend what was happening, Zira turned and sprinted toward the entrance to the chamber. Ethan followed as fast as he could, but his mind was still racing. He was still trying to process the fact that the artifact had chosen him, and now They were under attack. He had no idea what was going on, but everything felt so much bigger than he ever imagined. They reached the stone corridor where the first group of armed figures appeared. They were tall, dark-skinned beings with glowing red eyes wearing uniforms that marked them as enemies. Zira's eyes locked onto them with fierce determination. "Move!" she shouted to Ethan, pushing him toward an alcove. She stood her ground, facing the rogue faction's leader, a tall figure who appeared to be in charge. "Zira, step aside," the leader commanded, his voice cold and emotionless. "We've come for the artifact. Hand it over now and we'll spare your life." Zira didn't flinch. "I will never let you have it." She spat, her voice steady but full of anger. "You're nothing but thieves, and you won't destroy my people's future." Ethan crouched behind the alcove, his mind racing. He wanted to do something, but what? He had no training, no weapons, nothing. He was just a guy caught in the middle of something far beyond him. "You don't understand," Zira continued, her voice unwavering. "The artifact chooses who it bonds with. It has already chosen me, and now it has chosen him." She pointed to Ethan, who froze in shock. He had no idea what she was talking about, but somehow her words gave him a sense of purpose. The artifact had chosen him. But what did that mean for the future? The leader's eyes flickered with surprise as he turned toward Ethan, his gaze full of disdain. "A human?" he sneered. "No matter. The artifact will be ours." Before Zira could react, the leader raised his hand, signaling his soldiers to move in. Ethan's breath caught in his throat as the group advanced toward them. Zira's glowing blade flashed in the air as she charged forward to meet them, but Ethan felt completely helpless. He couldn't just stand there. He had to do something. His eyes darted around, looking for anything that could help. That's when he saw it. The glowing sphere from the artifact, sitting in its pedestal back in the chamber. Something deep inside him stirred. Without thinking, he broke from the alcove and sprinted toward the artifact. "Ethan, no!" Zira called after him, but it was too late. As soon as he touched the artifact, a surge of energy rushed through him. His body was flooded with warmth, and he felt the artifact's energy flow into him as though it was choosing him in that moment. The room around him seemed to shimmer, and everything became clearer. He could see the figures of the rogue soldiers. Their movement slowed as if time itself was bending around them. For the first time, Ethan felt power, real power. The artifact's energy was coursing through him, and he could feel it aligning with his very being. He wasn't just a bystander anymore. He was a part of something greater. He turned toward the approaching soldiers, his mind racing. He didn't know how, but he felt the energy in the air, the raw power of the artifact. He focused, and with a thought, the ground beneath the soldiers began to tremble. The rocks around them shifted, rising into jagged spikes that shot toward the intruders, forcing them to retreat. Zira's eyes widened as she watched the scene unfold. "Ethan!" she gasped, her voice a mix of surprise and awe. You did that?" Ethan's breath came in short bursts, his heart still racing. "I don't know how," he said, looking at his hands. "I just felt it. The artifact, it's in me." Zira stepped closer, her gaze never leaving him. "The power it holds, it's reacting to you just like I thought it would. But this is something else. You're not just its chosen one. You're its equal." Before Ethan could respond, the rogue faction's leader moved again, stepping forward with a sneer on his face. "You're playing with forces you don't understand," he warned. "You may have power now, but it will destroy you." Ethan squared his shoulders, the energy from the artifact still flowing through him. "Not if I stop you first." Just as the tension was about to reach its peak, a sudden noise interrupted the standoff. Another group of soldiers, wearing different uniforms, burst into the chamber, their weapons drawn. They were clearly not allies of the rogue faction. The leader of the new group, a tall woman with short-cropped hair and piercing blue eyes, stepped forward. "Step aside," she commanded, her voice sharp. "This artifact belongs to the people of Threxia, not to the likes of you." Ethan and Zira exchanged a quick glance. More enemies? Or perhaps allies? The battle wasn't over, and the true power of the artifact was just beginning to reveal itself. The room was filled with tension as the new group of soldiers stood at the entrance. The rogue faction's leader snarled, but the blue-eyed woman didn't flinch. She stepped forward, her presence commanding the attention of everyone in the chamber. "Step aside," she repeated, her voice firm but calm. "The artifact must not fall into the hands of those who would use it to destroy. It belongs with us, those who are worthy of its power." Zira stood tall beside Ethan, her glowing blade still in hand. "And who are you to decide who's worthy?" she demanded. The air between them crackled with the weight of their words. It was clear that this wasn't just a battle for an artifact. It was a battle for control over the very future of Zira's world. The blue-eyed woman's gaze never left Zira, but she nodded once. "I am Captain Reyna of the Threxian Defense Forces. My people have been fighting to protect the artifact from those who would abuse it. We were sent to retrieve it and ensure it does not fall into the wrong hands." Ethan's heart was still racing. He didn't know who to trust anymore. The rogue faction, the Threxian Defense Forces, each group seemed to have its own agenda. And then there was the artifact. It had chosen him. He could feel its power deep inside him, still coursing through his veins. But the longer he was connected to it, the more he realized how little he truly understood. "You want the artifact?" Ethan asked, his voice steady, but filled with uncertainty. "What's to stop you from taking it just like the others?" "Captain." Reyna's eyes softened for a moment, her gaze flicking to Ethan with an understanding that sent a shiver down his spine. "We don't want to take it by force, human. We want to protect it. You have been chosen, and that is something we cannot ignore. But there are powers at play here far beyond what you know. Powers that even the Threxian government can't control." Zira, ever the protector, stepped forward. "Then what do you propose? If you're not here to take it by force, then why are you here?" Reyna's expression grew more serious. "The artifact must be taken to Threxia. It's the only way to unlock its full potential and use its power to save our dying planet. But there are those who would destroy it, who would see Threxia fall. We need your help, Zira. We need the artifact." Zira's eyes narrowed. "And what makes you think I'll hand over the artifact to you? How do I know you won't use it? Against my people?" Captain Reyna took a step back and turned to face Ethan. "Because," she said softly, "the artifact will never trust us. It only trusts one who is worthy. And judging by what I've seen, it has chosen you. You hold the key to unlocking the artifact's true power." Ethan's breath caught in his chest. The idea of being the one to unlock the artifact's power was overwhelming. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't even a hero. He was just a human who had found himself caught in the middle of a galactic struggle that he didn't fully understand. "You said the artifact is sentient," he began, his voice quiet but determined. "Then why hasn't it spoken to me? Why hasn't it told me what to do?" Captain Reyna paused, her face softening. "The artifact will not speak to just anyone. It chooses its bond. And for some, the bond is not instant. It's a connection that takes time to trust, to understand, and to unlock its true power." Ethan swallowed hard. He had no time. He couldn't let this artifact, this living being, fall into the wrong hands. Not after everything that had happened. "Zira," Ethan said, turning to her, "I don't know what to do. I don't know how to unlock its power, but I know I have to try. For your people, for Earth, for everyone." Zira looked at him with a mixture of admiration and fear. She placed a hand on his shoulder, her touch reassuring but firm. "I will stand by you," she said. "Whatever happens, you won't be alone. We will figure this out together." Captain Reyna's eyes flicked between the two of them. "The artifact will not reveal its full power unless we take it to Threxia," she said again. "We must move quickly, before the rogue faction reaches us. Their forces are already mobilizing." Ethan could feel the weight of the decision pressing on him. He didn't have the luxury of time, and every second counted. With the rogue faction closing in, they couldn't afford to hesitate. They had to act, and they had to act now. Not leaving without the artifact, Zira said, her voice sharp, filled with a newfound resolve. If you truly want to help us, then you'll fight with us. Together, we'll protect it. Ethan nodded. Let's do this. With a sense of unity between them, the three of them, Zira, Captain Reyna, and Ethan, prepared for what was coming. They knew the rogue faction wouldn't stop until they had the artifact, and they had no intention of letting it fall into their hands. The ground beneath them shook as the rogue soldiers advanced, their footsteps growing louder with each passing moment. The walls of the chamber seemed to close in on them, but Zira's stance was unshaken. She stood tall, her blade glowing brightly, ready for whatever came next. I'll hold them off, Zira said, turning to Ethan. Get the artifact to the ship. Take it to Threxia. Ethan shook his head. I'm not leaving you behind. But Zira's eyes were fierce, filled with a determination that Ethan had never seen before. You have to go, Ethan. It's the only way. I'll make sure they don't get to you. Go. With one last glance at Zira, Ethan turned toward the artifact, his heart pounding in his chest. He didn't understand how it worked, but he knew one thing. He had to take it to Threxia no matter what. As he approached the artifact, he placed his hands on it, feeling its power surge through him once more. This time, the energy felt different. It felt more alive. The artifact seemed to pulse in rhythm with his heartbeat, and in that moment, Ethan felt connected to something far greater than himself. The power was overwhelming, but it was also comforting. It was like the artifact was guiding him, telling him that he wasn't alone. Ethan stepped away from the pedestal and turned back toward Zira and Captain Reyna. The rogue faction was almost upon them, and the battle was about to begin. But Ethan wasn't afraid anymore. He knew what he had to do.